If you think being nice, always available, or bending over backward will make women chase you, think again. That's a harsh truth most men refuse to face, but it's exactly what you need to hear. Women don't want men who are desperate. They don't admire men who are constantly agreeing, always saying yes or giving up their boundaries for a chance at affection. In reality, women are drawn to men who have the courage to walk away. Yes, you heard that right. Walking away is the ultimate power move. It's not about arrogance or playing games. It's about knowing your worth, standing firm in your values, and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. Here's why this matters. The moment you become someone who will tolerate being undervalued, you lose the very thing that makes you attractive, your independence. The moment you stop putting yourself first, the moment you forget that your life doesn't revolve around a relationship, women sense it instantly. And attraction, it dies. Women want a man who has options, who has a life outside of them, who isn't afraid to say, I respect you, but I won't be treated like this. That willingness to walk away is magnetic because it shows confidence, self-respect, and emotional strength. All qualities that pull people in like a magnet. Now, let's be clear. Walking away doesn't mean being cruel or dismissive. It doesn't mean ignoring emotions or avoiding responsibility. It means you recognize your value. It means you understand that the right woman will appreciate your boundaries, not challenge them. And here's the controversial part. Most men are doing it wrong. They bend, they break, they beg, all in the name of love or attention. And women, intentionally or not, respond to that weakness by losing respect. This is uncomfortable for many men to hear, but it's a reality rooted not in cynicism, but in human psychology. Respect and attraction are intertwined. And if you're not capable of standing your ground, you're losing both. This is where Stoicism comes into play. Stoicism teaches the art of detachment, self-discipline, and emotional resilience. It's the philosophy of understanding what you can control, yourself, your actions, your decisions, and letting go of what you cannot, like someone else's feelings or approval. When applied to relationships, Stoicism doesn't make you cold. It makes you disciplined. It makes you aware that your happiness isn't dependent on someone else's validation. And here's the thing, women notice this energy. They may not articulate it, but they feel it. A man who isn't afraid to walk away demonstrates that he controls his own life. That's rare. That's attractive. Here's a practical example. Imagine a man who is always available to a woman no matter what. He cancels plans with friends, prioritizes her over his goals, and tolerates behavior that doesn't respect him. He might think he's showing love, but what he's really showing is desperation. Now, imagine another man. He has his routines, his friendships, his ambitions. He communicates openly and sets boundaries. If a woman crosses those boundaries or takes him for granted, he calmly walks away, not angrily, not resentfully, but with quiet confidence. Which of these two men do you think commands respect? Which one feels like a prize worth pursuing? The answer is obvious. Walking away is also a form of self-protection. It teaches men to avoid being emotionally drained, manipulated, or undervalued. It's not about winning or punishing someone else. It's about preserving your dignity. And here's the part most men refuse to admit. Attraction is often tied to challenge. Humans are wired to respond to scarcity and confidence. When you show that your attention and affection are earned, not automatic, you become more desirable. You stop chasing. You stop begging. You stop compromising your self-respect for temporary approval. This concept is controversial because it goes against everything society teaches men about love. we're told to pursue relentlessly, to never give up, to be self-sacrificing in relationships. But real attraction doesn't work that way. Real attraction comes from balance, care, respect, and boundaries. Women aren't looking for someone to worship them. They're looking for someone to respect themselves enough to be unwavering in their value. And that's exactly why walking away works. It communicates a truth that words alone never could. You are not disposable. You are not negotiable. So if you've been struggling with relationships, constantly feeling ignored or undervalued, the first lesson is brutal but liberating. You must be willing to walk away, not as a threat, not as a punishment, but as a statement. A statement that your life has meaning, that your time is valuable, and that your self-worth isn't dependent on someone else's affection. It's a lesson in strength, discipline, and emotional intelligence. It's also a lesson in Stoicism because it's about mastering your reactions, staying calm in the face of rejection, and refusing to surrender your principles for temporary comfort. This video will break down exactly why walking away is the ultimate attraction tool, how it aligns with Stoic principles, and why most men fail because they cling too tightly to approval. By the end, you'll understand not just the what, but the why, and more importantly, how to apply it in real life. If you're ready to stop being invisible, stop being taken for granted, and start commanding respect effortlessly, then pay attention because what you're about to learn could change the way you approach every interaction from now on. Most men think being agreeable, available, and constantly accommodating is the key to keeping a woman interested. They believe that if they never say no, never set boundaries, and never create distance, they'll be admired and loved. This is one of the biggest mistakes a man can make. The truth is the opposite. Being too easy to have makes you invisible. Walking away, even momentarily, signals that your time, attention, and energy are valuable. And nothing is more magnetic than a man who knows his worth. Think about it. Value is always perceived in context. If you give too much too easily, there's no contrast. There's nothing to make a woman pause, think, or appreciate what she has. But when a man is willing to step back to say, I'm not going to compromise my principles or waste my time, it creates tension. Tension that fuels attraction. This isn't manipulation. It's self-respect. It's the difference between being someone who clings and someone who commands presence without trying. This principle works because it touches a deep psychological truth. Humans are drawn to independence. A person who has their own life interests and goals is inherently more interesting. Women notice this, whether consciously or subconsciously. A man who is willing to walk away isn't needy. He isn't desperate. He doesn't hang on to attention that isn't reciprocated. And this makes him instantly more desirable because it shows he's not dependent on validation from anyone. Let's consider a scenario. Imagine a man named Daniel. He's been dating a woman for a few weeks, and she starts to cancel plans repeatedly, leaving him waiting or shifting her priorities without much explanation. Daniel could continue accommodating her every change, hoping that persistence will earn her respect or affection. Most men would, but Daniel does something different. Instead of chasing, he tells her calmly and respectfully that he values his time and will focus on other areas of his life while she figures out what she wants. He doesn't issue threats or drama. He simply steps back. Within a few days, the woman reaches out. She notices the difference in his behavior, the absence of constant availability, and the fact that he has his own life independent of her actions. Suddenly, the dynamic changes. She starts engaging with more respect and interest because she senses his independence and confidence. By walking away, Daniel hasn't lost anything. He's gained respect and strengthened attraction. This is the subtle power that most men overlook, thinking that constant attention is the key to connection. Walking away also protects your emotional state. Too many men exhaust themselves, chasing validation from women who don't recognize their value. They bend over backward trying to impress, appease, or prove their worth, all while ignoring their own goals and happiness. This approach not only diminishes attraction, but also leads to resentment, frustration, and self-doubt. By stepping back, a man signals that he values himself more than the approval of someone else, which is a quality women instinctively respond to. This doesn't mean that walking away should be done frequently or without reason. It's not about playing games. It's about clarity and self-respect. It's about creating space where respect and desire can flourish naturally. Women may initially test boundaries, push limits, or seem indifferent when you step back. But this is a natural response to seeing that you're not easily swayed or manipulated. It's a litmus test for whether your value will be recognized. Another crucial aspect is emotional stability. A man willing to walk away demonstrates that his happiness is self-contained. He isn't overreacting to small slights. He isn't desperate for attention. And he isn't willing to compromise his principles for fleeting approval. This stability is a rare quality, and it immediately elevates a man's presence in any relationship. People are drawn to those who are calm, confident, and grounded. And walking away embodies all of these traits. It's also worth noting that walking away is a reflection of long-term thinking. Men often make the mistake of pursuing short-term approval, chasing temporary affection at the cost of their dignity. A man who understands his value sees relationships as a partnership, not a lifeline. He knows that if someone cannot meet him with mutual respect and appreciation, the relationship isn't worth his energy. This mindset, aligned with Stoic principles, transforms dating and interaction dynamics. It stops men from falling into cycles of frustration, insecurity, or desperation. Ultimately, the willingness to walk away is about alignment. It's about ensuring that your life, your time, and your energy are matched with someone who respects and values them. It's about understanding that attraction is not earned through submission or over-attentiveness, but through confidence, independence, and self-respect. By creating space, holding your boundaries, and refusing to compromise your value for temporary comfort, you naturally cultivate respect and desire. When a man embodies this principle, he commands attention effortlessly. He doesn't need to argue, chase, or prove himself. The simple act of being willing to walk away communicates strength, self-awareness, and value far more effectively than any words ever could. This is the first step toward mastering the art of attraction. Realizing that being willing to walk away isn't rejection, it's respect for yourself. And that respect is the most magnetic force you can project. Let's be honest. Most men struggle with boundaries. You know the feeling. You want to be liked, appreciated, and wanted so badly that you ignore red flags, tolerate behavior that drains you, and say yes to things you don't want to do just to avoid conflict. It's exhausting. And here's the truth. Ignoring your boundaries kills attraction faster than anything else. Women aren't looking for someone who will bend over backward or never stand up for themselves. They're looking for a man who knows where he begins and ends, who has clear principles and who won't compromise his dignity for fleeting approval. A man with boundaries demonstrates self-respect, confidence, and emotional strength, all qualities that naturally draw people in. Boundaries aren't just rules for others. They're a reflection of how much you value yourself. Think about your own experiences. How many times have you felt drained, after trying to please someone else or frustrated because you weren't being respected. That frustration isn't random. It's a signal that your boundaries aren't being honored. And when boundaries are ignored, your energy diminishes, your confidence takes a hit, and your presence becomes less magnetic. People, especially women, instinctively pick up on that energy. If you seem uncertain, pliable, or desperate to be liked, the respect and desire that once existed will fade. Boundaries also create clarity. They communicate what's acceptable and what isn't without saying a word. You don't need to argue, negotiate, or explain yourself endlessly. When a man holds his ground calmly and consistently, people understand his value immediately. There's a subtle confidence in that restraint, a quiet power that's far more compelling than charm or persuasion. Most men fail because they confuse being flexible with being weak. They think accommodating everyone's whims makes them likable, but it does the opposite. True likability comes from consistency, integrity, and self-respect. When you honor your own needs and limits, others are more likely to honor them too. Attraction thrives in this environment because it's built on authenticity and mutual respect, not desperation or compromise. Another reason boundaries are so attractive is that they show emotional stability. Life is unpredictable. People make mistakes, misunderstandings happen, and challenges arise. When you remain anchored in your principles, you project calmness and security. Women and people in general are drawn to that sense of reliability and control. They don't want someone who reacts impulsively to every inconvenience, or who sacrifices their own well-being to avoid tension. They want a man who knows himself, trusts his judgment, and maintains balance in the face of uncertainty. Boundaries also protect your energy. Time and attention are limited, and how you distribute them speaks volumes about your priorities. When you respect your own limits, you avoid investing too much in situations or people that aren't aligned with your values. This isn't about playing games or creating scarcity artificially. It's about preserving your vitality and staying focused on what truly matters. People notice this. They sense when a man is intentional with his life, and that intentionality is attractive. Finally, boundaries give you freedom. It might seem counterintuitive, but the more you honor yourself, the less you feel trapped by others, expectations, or judgments. You become less reactive and more proactive. You make decisions based on your principles, not on the fear of losing approval or affection. That freedom shows in your posture, your tone, your actions, and it's magnetic. People don't just want someone who is agreeable. They want someone who is grounded, independent, and self-assured. Boundaries are not a weapon. They are a declaration. They say, I know my worth. I will not compromise it. I will respect myself, and I expect the same from those around me. Once you embrace this, everything changes. You stop chasing attention. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop sacrificing your happiness for temporary comfort. You become a man who attracts people naturally, effortlessly, and without drama. Holding boundaries is hard because it goes against everything society has taught men about love, friendship, and approval. But the men who master this skill gain something far more valuable than approval. They gain respect, freedom, and a presence that commands attention. The willingness to uphold your boundaries without excuses or apologies is one of the most powerful tools a man can possess. It communicates confidence, strength, and emotional maturity. And those qualities will draw the right people into your life while naturally filtering out those who aren't aligned with your value. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men spend their lives chasing approval, and it's killing their potential. You've seen it. Men who constantly seek validation from women, trying to be the funniest, the most attentive, or the most accommodating, all in hopes of being liked or loved. And what do they get in return? Often frustration, disappointment, and a constant feeling of being undervalued. It's time to wake up. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your value isn't measured by how often someone calls you, how many texts they send, or how eager they seem for your attention. Yet so many men live as though it does. They adjust their schedules, compromise their priorities, and suppress their opinions, all to avoid conflict or rejection. This behaviour is invisible to the people they're trying to impress, and it erodes the one thing that could make them truly magnetic: self-respect. Women, consciously or not, respond to strength, not desperation. They notice when a man is calm, confident, and anchored in his own life. They sense when he isn't controlled by the fear of losing affection or approval. That's the subtle difference between a man who attracts effortlessly and a man who constantly struggles for attention. The man who walks his own path, sets his own boundaries, and refuses to compromise his value isn't just more attractive. He's respected, admired, and taken seriously. Many men fail because they confuse effort with worth. They believe that the more they invest in someone else, the more they'll be appreciated. But this is a trap. Effort without boundaries becomes desperation. Attention without self-respect becomes weakness. And weakness, no matter how well-intentioned, destroys attraction. It's harsh, but it's true. Women aren't looking for someone to worship them. They're looking for someone who respects himself enough to never bend too far or break too easily. It's time to wake up and stop giving away your power. Stop thinking that your worth depends on someone else noticing it. Stop chasing approval, validation, or affection that isn't freely given. Instead, focus on being the man who values himself, who knows his principles, and who isn't afraid to walk away when those principles are challenged. That shift from seeking validation to commanding respect changes everything. It transforms not only how others perceive you, but how you perceive yourself. This isn't about arrogance or ego, it's about clarity. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable resources. When you start treating them as such, everything changes. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop being manipulated by attention. And you stop settling for situations or relationships that don't align with your value. That awakening, the moment you realize you are enough on your own, is a game changer. Most men don't realize that being willing to walk away is not rejection. It's empowerment. It's a signal that your life has boundaries, your happiness is non-negotiable, and your self-respect comes first. If you stay stuck in the cycle of chasing approval, you'll never experience the magnetic presence that comes from true independence. And the harsh reality is this: many men will never wake up unless they confront this uncomfortable truth. So, here's the advice. Stop compromising yourself for temporary approval. Stop saying yes when you want to say no. Stop ignoring your principles to avoid discomfort. Embrace your own life, your own goals, and your own values. Learn to step back when you aren't treated with the respect you deserve. Learn to focus on your own growth, happiness, and freedom. That willingness to walk away, combined with a clear sense of self, is what separates the men who are admired and desired from the ones who are overlooked and undervalued. It's time to wake up. Stop chasing fleeting attention and start commanding respect through your actions, your boundaries, and your self-worth. Stop letting the world or anyone else dictate how you feel about yourself. Attraction, respect, and meaningful connections aren't built on chasing. They're built on presence, confidence, and unwavering value. And the moment you accept this, The moment you truly own your worth, everything changes. Here's the truth, and it's going to hit hard. Most men are losing themselves in the pursuit of approval, and it's destroying their chances at real respect, real attraction, and real fulfillment. You might think you're being caring, attentive, or romantic, but if you're bending over backward, compromising your values, and ignoring your own needs, you're doing the exact opposite of what makes you desirable. The controversial reality is this: being too available, too eager, or too accommodating is the fastest way to become invisible. It's the silent killer of attraction. And yet, most men will never admit it. You've been conditioned to believe that persistence equals love, that sacrifice equals respect, and that giving everything without boundaries proves your worth. But that's a lie. The world doesn't reward desperation. Women, consciously or not, respond to confidence, independence, and self-respect. If you don't have these qualities, it doesn't matter how much attention you give. You won't be seen the way you want to be seen. And the harshest truth of all, many men will continue down this path, chasing validation instead of cultivating their own value. They'll settle for crumbs, compromise their happiness, and wonder why they feel undervalued and unfulfilled. It's time to wake up. You cannot control someone else's feelings, attention, or decisions. You can only control yourself, your actions, your choices, your mindset. That's why the men who are truly magnetic are the ones willing to walk away. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but because they understand their worth and refuse to settle for less. Walking away isn't rejection, it's respect for yourself. It's a statement that you are not disposable, that your time and energy are too valuable to be wasted on situations or people who don't recognize them. And here's where most men fail. They confuse kindness with weakness, availability with value, and compromise with love. They think bending over backward will make a woman care more, when in reality, it diminishes their presence, erodes respect, and kills attraction. This is a controversial statement, but it's a truth every man needs to hear. If you're constantly chasing, constantly accommodating, and constantly seeking approval, you are actively making yourself less desirable. The world doesn't owe you attention. Respect and attraction must be earned through your presence, your boundaries, and your self-respect. So, here's my challenge to you. Stop seeking validation. Stop tolerating disrespect. Stop prioritizing someone else's feelings over your own dignity. Focus on your growth, your goals, and your values. Build your life in a way that makes you proud, independent, and fulfilled with or without anyone's approval. This is not arrogance. It's self-mastery. This is not coldness. It's clarity. And it's the exact quality that commands respect and attracts people naturally. I want to hear from you. I want you to share your experiences, the moments when you realized you were chasing too hard, or the times you stood firm and felt the shift in respect and attention. Leave your stories in the comments. I'll read them. I'll engage with you. I want to create a space where we can have honest conversations, where men can wake up to their own value, where we can share insights, lessons, and breakthroughs. You're not alone in this, and the changes you make can ripple through every part of your life. Let this be a wake-up call. If you continue chasing approval, you will always be overlooked. If you continue compromising your boundaries, you will never command respect. But the moment you step back, the moment you hold your ground, the moment you realize your worth is not up for negotiation, everything changes. Women, people, opportunities, they start to respond differently. They sense your confidence, your independence, your self-respect. And that is the force that creates genuine attraction and meaningful connection. Here's the controversial part that most won't admit. The men who truly succeed, the men who are respected and admired, are the ones willing to let go. They are willing to walk away from what doesn't serve them, from people who don't value them, from situations that compromise their integrity. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, but it's necessary. And it's what separates men who live life on autopilot from men who live with purpose, dignity, and magnetic presence. So take this seriously. Don't just watch and agree. Act. Set your boundaries. Respect yourself. Walk away when needed. Share your experiences below. Your struggles, your victories, your revelations. I will read every comment. I will respond where I can. And I want to connect with you because this isn't just a video. It's a movement toward waking up, taking control of your life, and finally commanding the respect you deserve. The bottom line, you cannot earn respect by begging for attention. You cannot create attraction by being desperate. You cannot grow by ignoring your own value. Wake up, stand tall, step back when needed,